Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of The Connector. I am your connector, Arielle Levitt, and I am here to connect you to people that are doing innovative things, that are trailblazers, that are exciting, that want to connect with others, that want to help others succeed in business, and want to, we're all being entrepreneurs now these days, or not all, but we are in that more entrepreneurial world. And it is so hard sometimes to find the right mentor or somebody to connect with or ask ideas, or you're afraid to do that. Well, my guests are excited to do that. They want to connect. They want to collaborate with other business owners. They want to make things happen. So they're so generous in giving their time and talking about things and how they got to where they are. I have a really cool guest today. His name is Luke, and he has created his business from a multi-million-dollar business now, right? Is that where we're at? Yeah, we're there now in a very short amount of time. And you've figured out things and you've come over with stuff. Anyways, Luke, let me bring you on before I start just talking about you. And yeah, hi.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, this is fantastic. And I love how you have just built your whole career up. So let's talk, or business, I should say. It's not career, it's business. Let's talk a little bit about your what you've built up, what you're doing, and let's start there. Let's get some background.
Yeah, absolutely. So first, a little bit of background on me. You know, I've been in the online entrepreneurship world for about a decade now. So I actually started when I was in college. I begged my parents for a loan to help me start my first business when I was 19 years old. They gave me a $600 loan to teach me a lesson that these things don't work, and for me to, be able to go and put energy towards things that really matter, like getting good grades and stuff like that. And this is the narrative that they told me. I got that loan, and after 6 months, I fell flat on my face, was failing and everything. And I wanted to quit, but thank God I ended up not quitting, and I gave it another month. And in that 7th month, really everything started to change for me. And I saw my life change pretty quickly. You know, by the time I was 20, I hit a 6-figure income. By 21, it was multiple 6 figures. And by 23, I had a business that was doing about $10 million a year in annual revenue. And so now I am 31. My primary focus now is actually in my agency. So at our agency, we help people grow and monetize their brands through press, podcasts, and PR. Worked with about 1,500 clients now, some as large as Dr. Seuss or Calvin Johnson, who's a Hall of Fame football player, all the way down to like brand new startup entrepreneurs. And one of the things I just loved when I heard about your show and we first connected is just the idea of connecting. You know, for us, the name of my company is ACE Branding, and ACE is actually an acronym for our core values. So accountability, collaboration, and excellence. And so collaboration is really at the core of what I do. And so I love what you stand for. I love this podcast, and I'm really excited to be able to connect with you and connect with your listeners.
I love it. I love it. So, okay. So 19, let's go to 19 for a second, because you're 19 and you're like, I'm going to start my own business. Did that look like for you? Like, what were you like? Because you obviously didn't get into this area just at 19 and figuring this out, or did you?
Kind of did. Okay. There's this quote that Tony Robbins says that really kind of like encapsulates my beliefs, or at least in my personal experience. And it says that when the pain of staying the same outweighs the pain of change, then you change, right? So for a little bit of context, I grew up in an incredible family. My parents are doctors. They always taught me that the smartest people make the most money. So you go to high school, good grades, go to college, get good grades, make a resume, apply for a job, work 40 hours a week for 40 years of your life, retire on 40% of your income, get a nice gold watch, the white picket fence, and boom, life is good. And so that was kind of what I originally was going and doing. But when I went to college, I decided to major in international relations with a specialization in business and minor in partying like an idiot my freshman year. And so my freshman year, I didn't get 1, not 2, but 3 minor in possessions of alcohol. And so to my family, that is like this ultra conservative family, like I might as well have murdered somebody in their eyes, right? So I am now like the black sheep of black sheeps. And I remember I hit my low, right? That pain of staying the same when I was in the drunk tank for the 3rd time in a year. And it was a month after I had just promised my mom that like, I'm never going to drink again. I'm turning a corner. Trust me. And then a month later, I'm freaking back in this drunk tank, and I have to call her at 2 a.m. to pay my $250 bail to get me out of this drunk tank because I can't afford it. And I remember before making this phone call, like looking into the mirror and just like seeing myself, and like I didn't even recognize the person that was looking back at me. Like I was overweight. It was a shadow of who I really was as a person. And like in that moment before making that phone call, I was like, enough is enough. All right. I don't know what I'm going to do, how I'm going to become successful, but like, I am not going to be a loser anymore. And I'm like, I'm going to figure this out. And then 4 months from there, I met a mentor who was 25 years old. He was making 40 grand a month online. He taught me what he knew. And so that's what led me to the business opportunity when I got the loan, all of those things. And so it wasn't like I had a bunch of experience. It was just, I had so much pain and desperation that I was literally willing to do anything to try and make it work. And when I saw somebody else who was around my same age, he wasn't a genius, he didn't have a college degree, and he had the life that I wanted, I'm like, all right, if he can do it, I can do it. I just got to learn from him, right? And so that's really how I got started in my career.
It's so humbling, right? You're totally humbled and you're just like, okay, I'm going to take whatever advice you give me. I'm here to learn. I don't know, right? And a lot of us at one point, now I'm sure you've gotten to this point too, a little bit maybe in your life and your career, is like, you know a lot more now, right? But you are also constantly learning and constantly growing, because that's how you become such a successful entrepreneur, is that you continue to learn from mentors and people that you can be open-minded to, like, right? Do you notice that you...
Yes. I mean, that is such an astute observation. I think that in life, I always like to say, like, I don't know what I don't know. Right. Like I don't know what I don't even know what I don't know. And that is such a important realization to have, because you remain teachable and coachable. Right. And I feel like a lot of people in life, and like even me, I have to like remind myself of this, right, is like I get to like I got it sense where it's like, oh, I got this figured out. I know it. But right when you get to that point, it's when you hit your ceiling. You're not going to learn anymore, because if you got it, like what else are you going to learn? How are you going to grow? And so I think that it's really important to remain coachable, remain teachable, and acknowledge the fact that you don't know what you don't know, and then go find people that have been before you. I mean, that's why I read, right? That's why I have all these books, is like, I think reading's like a cheat code, right? Like there's people who invested like 25 years of their life on a single subject. And like, I can download their brain into my consciousness with like a week of reading, like that's crazy. Like that seems to me like cheating. Like in school, I was in trouble if I copied the smartest kid exam, like I'm in trouble for this, but that's literally what I'm doing in life. I'm like, all right, like what area do I want to get better in? Who's the smartest kid in class, AKA who wrote a great book and has proof that it actually works? I'm gonna copy that and learn it, and that's worked out pretty well for me so far.
That's so good. That's so good. It's a perfect way of summarizing it up. Like that's why we read. That's why we do what we do, right? Like so we can learn from others who have spent their 25 years learning that one specific thing. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's so much less painful to learn from other people's mistakes than your own, right? Because it's like, yeah, you can like just do it on your own and like you figure out what doesn't work enough times, you fall on your face, that you eventually figure out what works. But like it's so painful, it's so hard, and it takes a long time. It's like way easier just to like go find someone who's got it and model after them, just makes more sense.
What are a couple of your favorite books, since you do have a whole library behind you? And it's always fun to like learn what other people are reading, and what changed you, and what was like a game changer for you reading somebody else's stuff.
Yeah. Such a good question. So, man, what is my favorite books? It's so hard. It's being like, I've like traveled to 40 countries and people are like, what's your favorite trip you've been on? I'm like, how do I even choose that? But I will say this, there are a couple books that really stand out to me. So one book, which is going to sound super cliche and all this kind of stuff, but this actually really helped me. The book was the Bible. Okay. And this is why, is that as somebody who wants to be a leader, okay, like you look at other people who have become leaders, and like I will study the Bible and like take the life of Jesus, for example, and I use that as a way to learn in a model that I can use, because it's like, here's a guy whose ministry was 3 years. He had no social media, no connections, no anything. And he took 12 people and it turned into a organization that's now 2 billion people 2,000 years later. Okay. And it's like, that's pretty significant influence in leadership. And so there's a lot that you can go and learn from that. And so a ton of principles that I think that you can go and see. And so that has been a huge thing for me. Another book that I really love is the book called The Law of Success in 16 Lessons by Napoleon Hill. So Napoleon Hill wrote Think and Grow Rich. And so a lot of people know that book. But The Law of Success was actually the book that came before Think and Grow Rich. And it was his original manuscript that he has. And it's kind of hard to find the original one, but if you can find it, there's gold in there. Like his whole kind of goal was to be able to find a recipe for success. Like just like there's like a recipe for the world's greatest brownie, brownies, right? If you figured out how to make the world's greatest brownies, you can give me the recipe. Tell me exactly what ingredients to put in. And even if I don't know how to cook, I just copy your recipe. I'm going to make really good brownies too. And so that was kind of his goal when it comes to success. And he studied at his time the richest people in the world because he was mentored by an individual named Andrew Carnegie. Andrew Carnegie at the turn of the century owned U.S. Steel, worth hundreds of billions of dollars back, who knows what that'd be worth now. And then Andrew Carnegie introduced him to Rockefeller and all these other massively successful people at his time. And he observed them, wrote down what he saw from them, put it into a manual, and that's The Law of Success in 16 Lessons. So highly recommend it for anyone that's reading this. And then another one that I really love that changed kind of just the way that I think is a book called The New Psycho-Cybernetics. It's by an individual named Maxwell March. It's from it's an older book, but what he talks about is that everybody mentally has what he calls like a cybernetic set point. So it's almost like, think about how you have like a thermostat in your house. It's cybernetics that makes it so that if it's set for 60 degrees, if it goes to 59, the heat kicks on. If it goes to 61, the air conditioning kicks on, right? So there's a set point that like makes sure that the temperature stays at that brain or at that place. And he says that all humans have a cybernetic set point in their brain. So for example, when it comes to like being in shape, different people have a different set point of what health looks like to them. So some people it's at 200 pounds, other people it's at 185 pounds or whatever that is. Same thing when it comes to finances and relationships and all of these different types of things. So what he talks about is that if you want to go and change your life, it starts by changing your mind. And you have to reprogram your brain essentially to reset your cybernetic set point. So if, let's say in your finances, you're at, a 1 out of 10, now you got to get yourself somehow to a 2 out of 10 or a 3 out of 10. And he talks about how the best way to do that is by surrounding yourself with other people who are at a higher set point than you. And then you all have the adage, you become the average of the 5 people you're around most, right? And it's really, really true. And that's actually another reason why I'm such a big believer in shows like yours, because it's like some people don't have access to those individuals, but like through these podcasts, through books, through things like that, you can associate with these higher level individuals, people just are a little bit further along on their path than you, and it can allow you to kind of grow and reset what you expect of yourself and your own personal standards. And so those are 3 that had like a massive impact on my life.
Those 3 are incredible. I don't even know where to start with those 3, but we might have to start with the third one and work back, because the last one that you just said is exactly how I like to live my life too. And I've always loved that. Like I've always had friends that I'm sure you probably had this too, that are friends that are older than you, right? So you'd always learn from them. You'd constantly be around them and like, okay, what can I like take from you? You clearly have gone through life a little bit sooner than I have. And, how can I learn from what you're doing? And it's so much fun to sit in those rooms, right? And like, just observe and learn. And, so that was, these are so good, so good. Okay. Then you said The Law of Success was the other one, which is also a fantastic, I know his Think and Grow Rich was the, and I actually have never read that book, but I've heard it's incredible and I probably should read it at some point in my life, but I did not know he wrote that book before. Wow.
Yes. So Think and Grow Rich is kind of like a condensed version of Law of Success. Law of Success is that like yellow one that you can see there. So it's pretty big. It's like 600 and some pages, like a manuscript, but it's good stuff. It's good stuff.
And then I think, so then you said the Bible, first one, right?
Yeah.
Like that is incredible and that's spiritual. And I have these conversations I love with like a lot of my guests that on the show, but it's a spiritual component, and spiritual and being, and having faith and all that other stuff of just, the Bible it's the Bible, and, but having those ground core values and rules, it just allows you to become so successful at what you're doing, and it keeps you grounded. And that's the biggest part of being a successful entrepreneur, is staying grounded. And
that's really well said.
And I feel like that's what you really practice. And that's how you have become so successful, is because you've really taken the core values and held on to them and use them in your tools.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely true. And I think that it was something actually when I was younger and I first started, making money, I didn't have those like core values that weren't really a part of me yet, and it was like when I first started making money, I like really liked the status. So I wanted to buy the nice car and the nice house and the nice watch and like always go to the nice clubs and like, flex on everybody. And like, it's so dumb, frankly. And it's so dumb and it's so unfulfilling and it is so shallow, and I had to learn that the hard way. And I spent way too much money. It was like, I heard this quote from Will Smith and I'm probably going to butcher it, but it was like, people spend, money, like money they don't have, trying to impress people they, don't know, to buy buying things they don't like, or like some crap like that. Right. And that was me. It's like, I grew up in small town Northern Michigan. I'm over here like buying Louis Vuitton shoes. Like, dude, I didn't even know what Louis Vuitton was when I was a kid. Like, it's just like so stupid, So it's like, if I can go back in time and like give myself a little shaking and like remind me of the principles that you just said now, it would save my younger self, a lot of pain. And so if you're listening to this, all right, like learn it now from me so you don't have to make the mistake.
Totally. And we get so bombarded with society that like, this is how you're supposed to, when you make money, you spend it, you do this, you do. And it's not fulfilling for our souls.
That's exactly it.
It's like you feel empty. So you're doing it, but you felt empty inside. And it felt like you could never get full. Like, it's like when you eat like a bag of potato chips, you're not really going to feel full. Like if you were going to eat like a steak or something, like it's a very different feeling.
Yeah, no, that's such a good analogy of it, because it's like you keep eating, but it never fills you, right? So you're always looking for more. And it's the weirdest feeling. And I want to save people that are on this podcast from this, because I experience this. It's like, it's a really scary and weird feeling when like you get everything that you dreamed of, but it's not what you thought it was going to be like, right? It's like, I worked so hard. I sacrificed all this for this like life and this thing that I imagined, and I was going to feel so good. And then you get there and you're like, this is what I sacrificed for. This is it. Like, what's the point? And it sucks. It really sucks. And it took me a while, and that like hit me for a while. And I had to like refine meaning in real things, like my family and my just personal growth, my relationship with God, different things like this that really do feed my soul, as you mentioned. And that is, it's so key. It's so important.
Yeah. So that's interesting, because most people get that later in life, right? They reach that point. They're not really reaching it at, I don't know how old you were when you really felt like that. Were you
like 20, 22, 23? Okay.
So when you felt like you're like, I reached it, I have this like, but it's not fulfilled. I ate the bag of potato chips, not the steak, and correct. Yeah. So then you started diving into what to really feed your soul. Like, did you the Bible more? Meditation? I don't know. What was, yeah.
That's a really good question. And yeah, so I mean, it was for me, it was definitely diving into the Bible and just kind of like, I had to redefine my priorities, because it was really odd, because like, as I was like coming up, I'd always tell people like my 3 things that matter are like faith, family, and freedom. And to me, freedom was business, and that was like what I tried to focus on. But like, in life, your actions reflect your true priorities. So like, that wasn't really what my priorities were. I said that's what mattered to me. I said those are my core values, but my actions were in disalignment from that. And so once I got to the point where like I got all these things and I was like, it's not it, I just had to go back down to the root. And I was like, who is Luke? Like, what do I actually care about? And like, what really brings me joy, and and things like that. And so it was a lot of like introspectiveness and just taking the time to think. I do meditate. I take time in the morning, like for an hour every morning. I start my day off by I read the Bible, I pray, I meditate, just so I can think. It's my time where I can just kind of like talk with God, talk with myself, and cleanse my mind and see things clearly. And it took a lot of that, and then also my wife, I met my wife, and like she grounded me so much. And so I think that was also a really, really big thing for me.
How did you two meet?
We met so we actually met originally through her brother, who was in my business when I was younger. And so he was in my business there, but then it was like 7 years went by, and then we just like randomly reconnected again through a mutual acquaintance. And that's when we actually got together.
Wow. How funny is that? Like how life just like brings you back. And it's like at that time in your life, you were not available for that. Right. And you were a different person. You were just not there. And then it was like, no, but you guys are supposed to be together. So we're going to bring you back. You're ready now. It's time.
That's it though. No, it's such a good point. And yeah, life is wild in that way. It's like timing is everything. And like, And that's where I believe that like having faith in a higher power is like, is such, at least for me, it's been such a big thing in my success. Cause like sometimes it was like, I think I wanted things at a certain time, right? Like it was like, if you would have asked me, it's like, you want to meet your soulmate? You know, I'm like, yeah, absolutely. You know, but like that version of me was not actually ready to meet the right girl for me, you know? And, but I didn't know that at the time, right? Cause I couldn't acknowledge you don't know what you don't know, you know? So, and so I went through a lot of ignorance within that. And I was in a relationship for 4 years that I should have been out of, you know, I was in, it was just, yeah, it was not a good thing. And then after I finally broke up with that girl, it made space in my life and I was I was kind of a new person. And then, yeah, she was brought back into my life. So, yeah.
You have to be very grounded in yourself to, I think, allow somebody else in or the right person in. And making sure, like, not getting involved in all their other feelings or whatever. So you're very you are like, you're the tree, right? The tree trunk is strong and it can't be pushed over, or it can't be, you know, but it can it can grow the branches and it can grow the different, because you grow together. Right. And yes. So, I find this all, you know, fun to like, as you know, like balancing a business, balancing a relationship, balancing all these things. And now you have a child. And so yes. It's so many different areas that you all have to be communicating in and be grounded to be able to really like grow together.
Yeah, that's so true. And one other thing that I did that really, I don't know, work for me, so maybe it can work for other people, is that I'm really big on like writing my goals down, you know, right? And doing that. And I always did that really well in business. You know, I would like write down my dream life and I had like a very clear picture of exactly what I wanted to go and create. And then I would go work to create that. But I never did that in a relationship, you know, until like a month before I met my wife. So like my story with this is like I broke up with the girl of like 4 years that I was with, and that was just kind of like a rough, you know, weird thing. And then at that moment, I was like, all right, like the next girl I meet, like I'm dating to marry. I'm like 24 at this or 25, you know, and I'm like, I'm done with this whole, you know, whatever hookup life. Like I'm looking for like a real thing. And so I was like, what do I really want? And I'd never written it down. And so for the first time ever, I sat down and like wrote down the girl I wanted, and I had non-negotiables, right? You know, and then I had preferences. And so like non-negotiables are like character things, you know, and like certain beliefs that it's like, this is just what I need. And then preferences is like blonde hair, you know, or like things like that, you know, and then I wrote that down. And then what I said is I'm like, you know, like, God, like, I'm giving this up to you. Like, I know this girl exists somewhere. I don't know if I'm going to meet her tomorrow or in 10 years, but like, I'm not going to settle until I find this one. And freaking a month later, you know, my wife randomly DMs me. Like, it was like, and then we got together and like, we moved across the country in 2 months, got married in like a year. And like, it's a freaking crazy thing, you know? So it's wild.
Wow. I think that's so cool though, that you became clear on what you want. And you were clear on business and what you wanted, right? You're focused, like, this is what I want in business and this is what I want in a wife. But you didn't get to that part until later on, until you got more grounded, right? And I think that's just so helpful for a lot of us, because sometimes we don't know the how, but we know the end result of kind of what we want, but we don't know how we're supposed to get there. And that's not our job. Our job is not to figure out the how. Our job is to just continue to do the do and figure out what we want, like that dream and that feeling of what we want. And
that's exactly it.
Yeah. And that you were like, this is the feeling I want with this person, or this is the feeling I want with my business. This is what I want to create in the world. And this is what I would like to share with everybody and help people with. And you just, the how just came to you, right? Like things, opportunities and people and things just kind of presented itself to you.
Yeah, correct. You know, that's exactly it. And like, I'm a big believer in what you just said. You know, it's not our job to figure out the how. The how will reveal itself over time, you know, like, but at the end of the day, like, you can't hit a target that you can't see, right? You never reach a destination that you haven't defined, right? Like, you don't just drive in a car, like get in a car, like without an idea of where you're going to go, right? It's like, and you think this is how a GPS works, right? Let's say I'm driving across the country, which I did when I moved from Michigan to Scottsdale, Arizona. All I did is I was in Michigan and I put in the end destination, Scottsdale, enter. All right. And then all I did is whatever the next step was is what I focused on. It was like, all right, turn right here, Great. And then it showed me the next step. Then turn left here. Then go on this thing for 250 miles. But like, I didn't give a crap about like all the different, directions throughout the whole process. All I need to know is where I'm at, where I'm going, and then what's going to be the next step. And then you go as far as you can see. And then when you get there, you'll see further. And you repeat that process again and again. And eventually you get from Michigan to Scottsdale or from whatever your goals and your dreams are. But like, I 100% agree with what you're saying is that like, you have to clarify that end result and don't focus too much on the how, because that is that will reveal itself with time.
That's a beautiful analogy. That's like so helpful. Like you just painted this whole picture in my brain and I was like, yes. Fantastic. Fantastic. This is so fun. This is so fun. But okay, so let's go back into your business a little bit because I think this is fascinating how you like started a small business and most small businesses take time to grow to multi-million dollars or whatever it is. And the fact that you did this so quickly and you figured it out and you were like, talk more about that. I want to know more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first business that I got when I was 19, it was an affiliate business. So I was basically an affiliate of another company, and then I would create sales, and I'd get commissions of it, and then I'd recruit other people, and I'd teach them how to create sales, then I'd get override commissions of that. And so I think a big reason that I was able to grow so fast is because I was leveraging the existing infrastructure of another corporation, right? So I didn't have to come up with the product, the customer service, the fulfillment, the legal, the accounting, like all of that kind of stuff, right? Literally all I had to do is figure out how to market and sell. That was it. And if I could figure out how to do that, I could make money. And then the third step was then teaching other people how to go and do it. Right. And that was what allowed me to multiply my income because now I had leverage. Now I wasn't just getting paid off of my efforts, but now the efforts of a group of people. And so I think that is how I was able to find success so quickly is that I was able to make it so that most of the work was actually done by an existing company. And I got to just kind of do the front end of it. Then from there, after I found success, that's when then I started my own business, like my agency in 2017. And I started doing my own thing. And when you start like your own company, you do everything, right? Like everything is on you. And that is a little bit of a longer grind, to be able to go and get that one figured out. And I had to learn that the hard way, like I had a couple, start and stop. So I tried to launch it and then it grew and then it exploded. And I had business partners that embezzled tens of thousands of dollars from me and all this stuff, you go through all this crap, as an entrepreneur. Instagram lies, all right? Social media lies, all right? It's not just flying around in private jets, all right, eating this stuff. It's hard freaking work and you get kicked a lot in the face and it's difficult, but I think that if you can find a mentor, number one, and then number two is if you can find a system that's already proven out, it can accelerate your path. So like, for example, like I have a lot of friends who do really well in like insurance or in like network marketing, direct sales, or in solar or in real estate, and like they're like agents and things like that. So it's like, these are like opportunities that aren't necessarily like, some people don't call it entrepreneurship because you're not creating all of it. It's like they call it like intrapreneurship or soul. I don't know, whatever the word is. But the point is that it's like if you do it that way, you can plug into an existing system that somebody else created and you can learn from them rather than you having to go and figure it all out on your own. And so that's where I always like to tell people to start. I'm like, hey, plug into somebody else's thing to start. Learn the skills. And then once you learn the skills and you have that going figured out and you have a little nest egg, like where you can kind of like have some cushion, then I encourage people to go do their own thing and start it out. I think it's just, that's just what worked for me. And I think it can work for other people too.
That's so good. And I want to talk to you about, because like oversaturated markets, right? I'm sure people have said, oh, there's so many people that do what you do. And, you're like, why would you even want to go into that? Create something different, find a need or whatever it is. So why did you feel that you were better or not, or could deliver a better product or service than other people? Because it's an imposter syndrome that people get.
Yeah, it is an imposter syndrome that people get. And, I think that it's just at the end of the day, for me, I always lean in on a couple things. Number one is I lean in on like my own personal work ethic. And like, I know that I will do whatever it takes to make something work. And so it's like when I started my business, for example, like I got into the branding space, right? Like personal branding. And like, yeah, there's a lot of people that are going to go out there and do that. But number one is I already had actually built my brand. So it's like I had already done what I was teaching other people to do, right? So the way I made money in the beginning was like the way I was a successful affiliate is that I figured out how to grow my social media and I figured out how to monetize that social media. And then I taught my other affiliates how to do the same thing. And so then when I started my own company, I was like, I already know how to do this because I've done it for myself and I've done it for like my sales team members. And so now I'm just going to start doing it for clients. And so I had the confidence that I had already done the thing that I was teaching other people how to go and do. And I had invested so many hours and so much time. So that's what I'm like talking about within my work ethic, that it was like I had that confidence from that. I like to tell people to outwork your self-doubt. Right? It's like, dude, do so much work that it is like unreasonable to not be successful. Okay. At least that has worked for me. And so that's one side of it. And then the other side of it is also realizing that like the difference between like great and extraordinary is very small. So there's a lot of people who get companies and businesses that are great or good because there's a certain amount of work that gets there. But to get to the extraordinary level, it's a whole other caliber. Like Tony Robbins, again, makes this analogy of it's like if you have a plane that's going in a direction and it gets off course like 0.1 degree or 1 degree off, if you extend that over in a long period of time, the plane is like thousands of miles off course than where it's supposed to be, right? And so it's like the difference between great, like excellent and great is like 1 degree, but it's consistently over time. And I'm someone that isn't a shortcut person. So I do the 1 degree. I do that one thing. And because I do the things other people aren't willing to do, that gives me confidence that I can deliver results other people can't deliver. And so that's why it's so simple when I go and talk to someone and I say, hey, I'm the best person for you to work with because I know what I've put in. I know the effort. I know the time. And I know that if they decide to work with me, they're going to love it, you know? So like, I believe that there's most industries can be saturated, but it's lonely at the top. There's a lot of people that have good companies and good products, you know, but if you want to just separate yourself, just be excellent, be great, go the extra mile. And it separates you from everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah. No. And it's in this world right now, we're living in this decade or time. I don't even know whatever, where so many more people are becoming entrepreneurs and it's becoming more popular. Like it wasn't back in the 90s, 80s, whatever it was, right? Like entrepreneurship? No, like, I mean, in the sense of also a little different than like restaurants, like people that immigrated here started a restaurant, a cleaning store, a clothing factory, whatever it may be. But now we're in this time where it's like more people are doing branding, marketing. We have social media. We have so many other things now. And people are leaving their jobs and leaving corporate and starting their own careers and different things like that. And don't you find that like it really, oh gosh, there's a fly in here and I just smacked the microphone. Sorry guys. But don't you find that like so interesting this day and age? And like, do you encourage people to like do entrepreneurship or find a person that you want to work for and work for them and enjoy that? Or what do you kind of feel in that whole thing?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. And I am a big believer in entrepreneurship. Like, I believe that we're in one of the most interesting times ever. You know, like when you look back in history, right? Like 150 years ago, we were in the agrarian age, you know, where 90% of people in America were farmers. Then we move into the Industrial Revolution. And this is where Henry Ford introduced the 40-40-40 plan that I was talking about, right? And that was a good strategy for people to go and do. And you know, they retired at 50 with a pension and like, you know, life is good. And that was there. But now we're transitioning again and we're into the digital age. This is an age where, you know, the largest accommodation company in the world owns zero real estate, Airbnb. You know, the largest media company in the world doesn't even create any of their own content, you know, Facebook, right? And so this is a crazy digital world. And now the barrier to entry to starting a business is so insignificant. Like you mentioned back in the day, like let's say it's like the 50s, 60s, you want to start a business, it's a traditional business. You got to pay for a storefront. You have to invest in inventory. You have to be able to afford employees. You have to do all these things. So you got to get a fat loan from the bank. bank, massive risk. Maybe it's going to work, maybe it's not, right? You don't have access to mentors that are everywhere, right? Like you can't just Google how to do this thing and then it pops up and tells you, right? Like it was hard back then. But now it's in a different age, and it's an age where anybody can quite literally become an entrepreneur for, if you have $1,000 or $500, like you can start a website, you can do this, and you can make something happen. And so I do encourage people to lean towards entrepreneurship, but I also tell people that they also have to be careful, because like to be an entrepreneur, it's very glorified, as I mentioned in Facebook or in my previous statement, that like Instagram and Facebook and like social media makes it just look like this amazing thing where all you do is travel and all you do is live this great lifestyle and eat great meals and, meet amazing people. And it's like, that is a part of it, but it's not most of it. Most of it is you sitting down, doing boring tasks again and again and again and again and again and again. And it's really mundane and it's really laborious and it's very tedious. And so I think that it is something that people should do, because again, I think creating your own economy is the safest thing to do in this economy. It's like, become your own economy. That's the goal. I don't care what anyone else does, because I know that the economy of Luke Hessler is flourishing right now. And that's what matters in the family of Luke. Okay. And anyone can do that. All right. Anyone can create their own economy. And I want to empower people to do that, but I also want to manage their expectations and let them know it's going to be 10 times harder than they think it's going to be. They're going to want to quit 100 times. Their family's going to judge them for it. They're probably going to lose friends. They're going to have to sacrifice some of their hobbies that they have to do. And there's no guarantee that it's even ever going to work. Most entrepreneurs and most businesses fail. That's a fact. And so if you know all those things and you're still willing to get in the arena and do it, then I'm like, freaking go crush it. But again, I think in the beginning, the best thing you need to do is you have to invest in your own skills. That's what makes somebody a good entrepreneur. It's like, do you have sales skills, marketing skills, operational skills, management skills, leadership skills, right? You have to build these skills. And a way that you build these skills is through experience, through reading, through mentorship. And so you got to give yourself some time, to be able to go and figure that out as well.
Totally. Oh my gosh. We're going to come right back to this after a quick commercial break. Injured in a car accident, on the job, or just playing a game of pickleball? MedAmerica is the #1 clinic in physical therapy, occupational therapy, and chiropractic needs, specializing in sports, post-surgical, and orthopedic conditions. Located in Deerfield Beach, MedAmerica is here to help you get back feeling better than you did before. Visit their website at medamericarehab.com. That's Med, M-E-D, America, AMERICA, rehab, REHAB.com. Mention the connector to receive 10% off any self-pay service. Today's podcast is sponsored by Podpopuli. Have you ever thought of starting a podcast? Not sure where to start? Podpopuli makes it easy. With over 20 podcast studio locations nationwide, they host over 100 podcasts. Podpopuli is a full-service podcasting studio with video and audio production. They help you put your idea into the best podcast. Visit podpopuli.com to book your time to talk to an expert on getting started. That's podpopuli.com and mention the connector for 10% off your first year. Okay, we're back. This is so good. And it's fun that, so you're in branding and marketing. So let's talk a little bit about what you exactly do for your clients. And let's jump into that for a second.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what we do for our clients is we want to help them improve their online reputation or enhance their digital footprint. So kind of the philosophy behind this is as follows. So when you think of like first impressions, it's like first impressions still last a lifetime. But in the digital age, oftentimes that first impression is from a Google search or a social media search rather than a handshake or a conversation. And so what we want to do is we want to anticipate that action. And then we want to position our clients in a way that when people look them up online, they are perceived as the authority that they are. Because a lot of times in today's day and age, you have some people that are very credible, very legitimate entrepreneurs or businessmen or whatever it is that they go and do, thought leaders, but they have not taken that credibility that they have in real life and putting it online. And so therefore, they miss out on a ton of opportunities. Or even worse, their competitors who provide a less quality service are getting all these clients, that they should be getting just because they look better, not because they are better. And so we want to empower the people that actually are good and help them with that online reputation. So the way that we do that is through press, podcasts, and TV. So we have relationships with, I think, 750 publications now who have pre-approved stories for thought leaders and entrepreneurs and businesses. And so we can help our clients get their stories featured in these various publications. So they get published in USA Today or NASDAQ or Success Magazine or whatever it is. And then that is a digital version of it. And so when that thing goes live, that link can then rank on Google. So when you Google their name, now here comes up a story in USA Today or NASDAQ or whatever, talking about the person, what they've done, different things like that. So it helps build up that credibility. And then with like TV and podcasts, similar thing. You know, you can go on various podcasts and you can go on TV and you can share your expertise. And it's another way for you to be able to kind of go and establish that, as well as kind of get some brand awareness around what you're doing as well. So that's kind of what we do.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And you have to have those connections, right? You've had to build those connections with the companies, right? So now they trust you that you're going to bring them also quality people.
That's it.
So
that's exactly.
You have to vet your people too. You probably don't just take on every person.
That is correct. Yeah, we don't take on everybody who just has money to go and do it. Like our process is pretty consistent, where it's like the first call is we do like a discovery call. That's us learning about the person, who they are, what's their story, what's kind of the narrative they're trying to go and pitch. And like we basically determine in that call whether it's even worth it for us to move forward. We're like, hey, maybe it's not the right time. Let's, visit this maybe in 6 months or whatever. Or if it is the right time, then what we do is we actually go and do the pitching before the client actually pays us anything. So that's what makes us different than most other traditional PR firms, where most PR firms, they're getting paid a retainer to go and pitch their clients, and they're getting paid that retainer whether or not the client's pitch or the pitches get picked up or not. And so the client has really no idea what they're paying for. But for us, we kind of reverse it. Once we have that first call, we're like, all right, this is a story that we want to get picked up and we want to work with. Then we do all the pitching ahead of time, and then we go back to the client and we say, hey, here's all the publications who approved your story. Here's who you could get in. This is going to be the total cost. Is that worth it to you? And then they say yes or no, and we guarantee publishing if they say yes. So it takes out a lot of the ambiguity in like traditional PR and gives people a lot more clear deliverables.
It's amazing. It's amazing you found this. Like I knew this existed, but I didn't really know this existed, which is really fun that you have found this. You've mastered it. You've figured out the best way to do this. And I love what you're doing, and with just such a soulful heart too. And it's you really are here to help, and you're not here. Like you said, you've made your money. You've lived a more empty lifestyle. And now you're like, no, we're doing this with soul, and we're doing it with this purpose. And we want people to really to feel it all, and to really feel the joys of that can come with success. And yes. I love what you're doing. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today. And so where can people connect with you, stay connected, find you, learn more, all the things?
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to learn more about our company, you can just go to acebranding.com. If you want to connect with me, probably any social media, but Instagram is the one I'm most active on. It's Luke_Hessler, and we'd love to connect.
I love it. Thank you so much. You guys, if you heard this episode, or when you heard this at the end of the, oh my gosh, can't even talk. I'm like so stuck on this episode. I'm like, this is incredible. Okay. If you have if you can subscribe, write a review, it really helps other people find this episode and the podcast. If you have found something in this episode that you're like, oh my gosh, I have to share this with a friend, they need to know this, or whatever it may be, please feel free to share it. Or always, you can say, hey, I just listened to this podcast episode, and tag us both on Instagram. We love it. So please do that. We really appreciate it. And I'm so grateful I get to spend every week with you all. So I look forward to seeing you all next week for a whole new episode.